Bible in a Year, the Message Version, June 27, 2 Kings chapter 10, verse 32 through chapter 12, verse 21. It was about this time that God began to shrink Israel. Hazael hacked away at the borders of Israel, from the Jordan to the east, all the territory of Gilead, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh, from Arior near the brook Arnon, in effect all Gilead and Bashan. The rest of the life and times of Jehu, his accomplishments and fame, are written in the Chronicles of the King of Israel. Jehu died and was buried in the family plot in Samaria. His son Jehoahaz was the next king. Jehu ruled Israel from Samaria for 28 years. Athaliah was the mother of Ahaziah. When she saw that her son was dead, she took over. She began by massacring the entire royal family. But Jehoshaphat, daughter of King Joram and sister of Ahaziah, took Ahaziah's son Joash and kidnapped him from among the king's sons slated for slaughter. She hid him and his nurse in a private room away from Athaliah. He didn't get killed. He was there with her, hidden away for 6 years in the temple of God. Athaliah, oblivious to his existence, ruled the country. In the 7th year, Jehoiada sent for the captains of the bodyguards and the palace security force. They met him in the temple of God. He made a covenant with them, swore them to secrecy, and only then showed them the young prince. Then he commanded them, "These are your instructions. Those of you who come on duty on the Sabbath and guard the palace, and those of you who go off duty on the Sabbath and guard the temple of God, are to join forces at the time of the changing of the guard and form a ring around the young king. Weapons at the ready. Kill anyone who tries to break through your ranks. Your job is to stay with the king at all times and places, coming and going." The captains obeyed the orders of Jehoiada, the priest. Each took his men, those who came on duty on the Sabbath, and those who went off duty on the Sabbath, and presented them to Jehoiada, the priest. The priest armed the officers with spears and shields, originally belonging to King David, stored in the temple of God. Well armed, the guards took up their assigned positions for protecting the king, from one end of the temple to the other, surrounding both altar and temple. Then the priest brought the prince into view, crowned him, handed him the scroll of God's covenant, and made him king. As they anointed him, everyone applauded and shouted, "Long live the king!" Athaliah heard the shouting of the guards and people and came to the crowd gathered at the temple of God. Astonished, she saw the king standing beside the throne, flanked by the captains and heralds, with everybody beside themselves with joy, trumpets blaring. Athaliah ripped her robes in dismay and shouted, "Treason! Treason!" Jehoiada the priest ordered the military officers, "Drag her outside and kill anyone who tries to follow her." The priest had said, "Don't kill her inside the temple of God." So they dragged her out to the palace horse corral. There they killed her. Jehoiada now made a covenant between God and the king and the people. They were God's people. Another covenant was made between the king and the people. The people poured into the temple of Baal and tore it down, smashing altar and images to smithereens. They killed Mattan the priest in front of the altar. Jehoiada then stationed centuries. In the temple of God, he arranged for the officers of the bodyguard and the palace security, along with the people themselves, to escort the king down from the temple of God through the gate of the guards and into the palace. There he sat on the royal throne. Everybody celebrated the event, and the city was safe and undisturbed. They had killed Athaliah with the royal sword. Joash was 7 years old when he became king. In the 17th year of Jehu, Joash began his kingly rule. He was king for 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Gazelle. She was from Beersheba. Taught and trained by Jehoiada the priest, Joash did what pleased God for a king as he lived. Even so, he didn't get rid of the sacred fertility shrines. People still frequent them, sacrificing and burning incense. Joash instructed the priests, take the money that is brought into the temple of God for holy offerings, both mandatory offerings and free will offerings, and keeping a careful accounting, use them to renovate the temple wherever it has fallen into despair. But by the 23rd year of Josh's rule, the priests hadn't done one thing. The temple was in a dilapidated as ever. King Joash called Jehoiada the priest and company of priests and said, why haven't you renovated this sorry-looking temple? You are forbidden to take any more money for temple repairs. From now on, hand over everything you get. The priest agreed not to take any more money or to be involved in the temple renovation. Then Jehoiada took a single chest and bored a hole in the lid and placed it to the right of the main entrance into the temple of God. All the offerings that were brought to the temple of God were placed in the chest by the priests who guarded the entrance. When they saw that a large sum of money had accumulated in the chest, the king's secretary and the chief priests would empty the chest and count the offerings. They would give the money accounted for to the manager of the temple project. They in turn would pay the carpenters, construction workers, masons, stoneworkers, and the buyers of timber and quarried stone for the repair and renovation of the temple of God. Any expenses connected with fixing up the temple. But none of the money brought into the temple of God was used for liturgical extras, silver, candles, trumpets, various gold and silver vessels, etc. It was given to the workmen to pay for the repairing God's temple, and no one even had to check on the men who handled the money given for the project. They were honest men. Offerings designated for compensation offerings and absolution offerings didn't go into the building project. Those went directly to the priests. Around this time, Hazael, king of Aram, ventured out and attacked Gath, and he captured it. Then he decided to try for Jerusalem. Joash, king of Judah, countered by gathering up all the sacred memorials, gifts dedicated for holy use by his ancestors, the kings of Judah, Jehoshaphat, Joram, Iarazah, along with the holy memorials he himself had received, plus all the gold that he could find in the temple and palace storerooms, and sent it to Hazael, king of Aram. Appeased, Hazael went on his way and didn't bother Jerusalem. The rest of the life and times of Joash and all that he did are written in the Chronicles of the king of Judah. At the last, his palace staff formed a conspiracy and assassinated Joash as he was strolling along the ramp of the fortified outside city wall. Jehozabad, son of Shemith, and Jehorzabad, son of Jemer, were the assassins. And so Joash died and was buried in the family plot in the city of David. His son Amaziah was king after him. Acts chapter 18, verse 1 through verse 22. After Athens, Paul went to Corinth. Then is where he discovered Aquila, a Jew born in Pontus, and his wife Priscilla. They had just arrived from Italy, part of the general expulsion of Jews from Rome, ordered by Claudius. Paul moved in with them, and they worked together at their common trade of tent making. But every Sabbath he was at the meeting place, doing his best to convince both Jews and Greeks about Jesus. When Silas and Timothy arrived from Macedonia, Paul was able to give all his time to preaching and teaching, doing everything he could to persuade the Jews that Jesus was in fact God's Messiah. But no such luck. All they did was argue contentiously and contracted him at every turn. Total exasperation. Paul had finally had it with them and gave it up as a bad job. "Have it your way then," he said. "You've made your bed, now lie in it. From now on I'm spending my time with the other nations." He walked out and went to the home of Titus Justus, a God-fearing man who lived right next to the Jews' meeting place. But Paul's efforts with the Jews weren't a total loss. For Crispus, the meeting place priest, put his trust in the Master. His entire family believed with him. In the course of listening to Paul, a great many Corinthians believed and were baptized. One night the Master spoke to Paul in a dream. "Keep it up, and don't let anyone intimidate or silence you. No matter what happens, I'm with you, and no one is going to be able to hurt you. You have no idea how many people I have on my side in this city." That was all he needed to stick it out. He stayed another year and a half, faithfully teaching the Word of God to the Corinthians. But then, when Galileo was governor of Achaia province, the Jews got up a campaign against Paul, hauled him into court, and filed charges. "This man is seducing people into acts of worship that are illegal." Just as Paul was about to defend himself, Galileo interrupted and said to the Jews, "If this was a matter of criminal conduct, I would gladly hear you out. But it sounds to me like one more Jewish squabble, another of your endless hair-splitting quarrels over religion. Take care of it on your own time. I can't be bothered with this nonsense." And he cleared them out of the courtroom. Now the street rebel turned on Sothenes, the new meeting place president, and beat him up in plain sight of the court. Galileo didn't raise a finger. He could not have cared less. Paul stayed a while longer in Corinth, but then it was time to take leave of his friends. Saying his goodbyes, he sailed for Syre, Priscilla and Aquila with him, before boarding the ship in the harbor town of Cenchrea. He had his head shaved as part of a vow he had taken. They landed in Ephesus, where Priscilla and Aquila got off and stayed. Paul left the ship briefly to go to the meeting place and preach to the Jews. They wanted him to stay longer, but he said he couldn't. But after saying goodbye, he promised, "I'll be back, God willing." From Ephesus, he sailed to Caesarea. He greeted the church there and then went on to Antioch, completing the journey. Psalm chapter 145, verse 1 through verse 21, a David's praise. I lift you high in praise, my God, O my King, and I'll bless your name into eternity. I'll bless you every day and keep it up from now to eternity. God is magnificent. He can never be praised enough. There is no boundaries to his greatness. Generation after generation stands in awe of your work. Each one tells stories of your mighty acts. Your beauty and splendor have everyone talking. I compose songs on your wonders. Your marvelous doings are headline news. I could write a book full of details of your greatness. The fame of your goodness spreads across the country. Your righteousness is on everyone's lips. God is all mercy and grace, not quick to anger, is rich in love. God is good to one and all. Everything he does is soaked through with grace. Creation and creatures applaud you, God. Your holy people bless you. They talk about the glories of your rule. They exclaim over your splendor. Lest the world know of your power for good, the lavish splendor of your kingdom. Your kingdom is a kingdom eternal. You never get voted out of office. God always does what he says and is gracious in everything he does. God gives a hand to those down on their luck, gives a fresh start to those ready to quit. All eyes are on you, expectant. You give them their meals on time. Generous to a fault, you lavish your favor on all creatures. Everything God does is right. The trademark on all of his works is love. God's there, listening for all who pray, and mean it. He does what's best for those who fear him, hears them call out, and saves them. God sticks by all who love him, but it's over for those who don't. My mouth is filled with God's praise. Let everything living bless him. Bless his holy name from now to eternity. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 1. Loners who care only for themselves spit on the common good. This was a daily reading, the Message version of the Bible, read to you by Bible in a Year.